Hey everyone, Gill Gross here. Post-match Nikoloz Basilashvili versus Taylor Fritz, Indian Wells 2021 semifinal. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Basilashvili into his first Masters final, setting up a clash between two first-timers because his opponent will be Cam Norrie. He defeats Taylor Fritz in 2 sets. First set was a tiebreak. Second set, 6-3. This was the kind of performance that scares the rest of the tour out of Nikoloz Basilashvili to some extent. You know he's not going to do this every week. You know he's not going to have this consistently. But when Basilashvili plays like he did tonight, it's a very tough out. And I didn't say that against Tsitsipas. Against Tsitsipas, he was beatable. This was a really tough version for Taylor Fritz just because the mistakes weren't really there. He was not making a high number of unforced errors compared to the number of winners he was producing. And there were a couple of games where Basilashvili did make some bad mistakes in clusters. There were some key games, such as the end of the first set when Basilashvili was, I believe, up 40-15, ended up missing 3 forehands, and Fritz got a couple of break points in that game. But every time there was really a clutch situation, Basilashvili answered the bell, and break points converted here were 0-4-7. Basilashvili saved all 7 break points. And if you put together a montage of all of those break points, you're going to see a lot of really great shots by Basilashvili, with the exception of the first one, which was a set point in the first set where Fritz missed a down the line backhand that really had no right to miss. Other than that, you could fault Fritz for being a little bit passive, for waiting for the error, for not hitting big in those rallies and bold. And we can talk about that, but nonetheless, Basilashvili was not missing. He finished this match with 23 winners to 17 unforced errors, unlike the very negative winners to unforced errors ratio that he finished with against Tsitsipas. On this slow court, playing a lot of neutral rallies, 23 winners to 17 unforced errors is really impressive. Mind you, he never goes to the net. So those are mostly all baseline finishes. He never goes to the net, and he doesn't hit any aces. He hit 3 aces. So all of these finishes, 23 winners on this slow hard court in 2 sets, and he does it with ground strokes, and he does it without making too many unforced errors. I mean, 17, I feel like he had that in the second set alone against Tsitsipas. Anyway, clutch performance, really good performance by Nikoloz Basilashvili here. And I don't think Fritz did too much wrong. You can nitpick some of the things, like he did not fight fire with fire as much as he needed to. And his coach, Paul Annacone, was courtside on Tennis Channel, kind of saying the same thing. You have to go a little bit bigger, a little bit bolder. And that probably would have been the most effective play for Fritz. There was, in the pressure moments, not so much throughout the match, but in the pressure moments, there was a little bit of hoping that Basilashvili would miss instead of trying to force the issue in these rallies, which again, you know, Tsitsipas had the same problem, and a lot of players who play Basilashvili have the same problem, but really it's a bigger problem for Fritz, right? Norrie in the next round, he's going to do that intentionally. And that's just how he's going to play. But Fritz, with the movement and the defense he possesses and the firepower and the ground strokes he possesses, he should really be taking his shot at some point. Maybe not always, but he needed to take a little bit of risk on those break points, and that's the nitpick. The other nitpick is just going bigger off of Basilashvili's second serve. Nikoloz won 59% of his second serve points. You have to be better than that if you're Fritz. That's the number that stings, and you need to look at that and improve that. Fritz took his returns pretty early and would kind of go up the center, wouldn't hit it very hard. It wasn't doing anything. There wasn't any damage there. You have to make sure you make a dent, because Basilashvili is a player who obviously doesn't move all that well, doesn't defend all that well, and doesn't hit his second serve great. So you take all of those factors, man, you better win your second serve return points, because you should be taking an aggressive rip right off the bat. And I think for Fritz, that probably meant taking more of a Basilashvili approach. Back up a little bit, give yourself some extra time to maybe find that forehand and really go for it. And he did it maybe once, maybe twice. I know he missed it on one of the break points, actually. But that should have been throughout the match, consistently doing it, because Basilashvili did to Fritz what Basilashvili does to everyone, and that is back up and absolutely clobber the second serve return. And Fritz only won 38% of his second serve points, and there is your difference in the match. There was a chance for Fritz to come back in this match on Basilashvili's final service game. I think Fritz went to the backhand on one of the break points, and I think you really got to try to go to the forehand. Basilashvili hit a backhand down the line winner off a neutral ball. I would have liked to see Fritz focus a little bit more on the forehand. It was another very conservative rally by Fritz. And then on the next break point, you have just too good from Basilashvili, a great kick serve wide and an inside-out forehand winner. He hit an ace at deuce, and then he hit a great first serve on match point and put away an easy forehand. You had a lot of instances where Basilashvili was just too good in this match. And I know I'm not breaking down things that he's doing tactically here, and I'm focusing more on Fritz. That's because Basilashvili doesn't have any tactics. His tactic is to hit the ball so hard into the corner on every shot that it's impossible to return the ball. That's the tactic. I just think that the rate and, you know, his consistency in this match, it's rarely this good. And when he has a day like this, he's very, very difficult to beat. I'm just going to look at the tiebreak real quick before I wrap up. 5-all. Oh, so it was on serve at 5-6, and Fritz missed a backhand, unforced error, cross court. Yeah, I mean, it was another example of Fritz not playing a completely clean match, which he shouldn't, but also Fritz not playing a completely aggressive match. So the one thing that no one's been able to do against Basilashvili, and part of that is how his power and how his erraticness and how the fact that he normally decides things on his own racket, how that affects his opponents, how it affects the psyche, where he's doing so much on his side of the court that there's almost a tendency of trying to see what he does instead of playing your game proactively. And, you know, there's an example of Fritz probably playing too passively whenever there was a pressure moment where Basilashvili's clear-headed. He never thinks. He plays one way. It doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. And that is a very, very powerful weapon, a very valuable thing. It helps with nerves. It helps with execution. And Basilashvili has that working in his favor. It's when he's solved. It's when there's an opponent who, you know, really has a read on him and has a beat on him, that's where it's going to look really bad. Or if it's a day where his timing is off, his control is off, he's making a lot of unforced errors, that's where you're going to see the flip side, the negative side of Basilashvili's brand of tennis, because it's going to look like he has absolutely no answers and he's going to look amateurish sometimes. But that was not the case today, and he comes through Fritz in straight sets with a really, really strong performance, setting up a final with Cam Norrie. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.